Hope everyone is doing well this morning on this Tuesday in the Broad Top Robertsdale area or wherever else you're watching from. Today I want to talk about some more things that Jesus ways that Jesus calls us to be. And today we're going to look at Luke 12 verses 13 through 21. It's called the parable of the rich fool. Let's just read it and we'll talk through it. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Um, but he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For now I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you. And all things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So it is with the one who lays up treasures for himself and is not rich towards God." You know, this is an interesting parable. And I think it's one that's important for our time because it's a story of a person who has prosperity, has an overabundance of prosperity, and what they decide to do with that is they decide to hoard it, to store it up for themselves, and essentially kick back and do nothing. And God says you're being foolish because you're gonna die tonight. Now it doesn't say God doesn't say you're dying because you did this, but it says this night you will die essentially. And then what will all this stuff that you prepared? Whose will it be? What will happen to it? Essentially, you can't take it with you. So what good is it to hoard all that stuff and not do anything? And so really, this is about, well, what do you do with what God has given you? And some people will hoard it up. You know, some people will spend it all on themselves or use it only for themselves. But when we look to the Gospels, when we look to the teachings of Jesus, we're to operate differently. We've talked about on Sunday mornings, we talked about how the church is supposed to operate and how the early church, they had all things in common. We're going to talk about that some more this Sunday. They shared things. And so one of the things that we need to understand is we are called to live generously. Okay? We're called to live in such a way where we don't hoard everything and stingy with everything, but instead we share what we have with others. When God blesses us, we seek to then be a blessing to others. That's what it means to be generous. That it's not about, giving a whole bunch of money or giving a whole bunch of anything. It's about how you view things. It's about if you seek to be a blessing to others, because that's what generosity is about. It's about us sharing what we do have. I've seen generosity on a grandiose scale among people who had nothing because they didn't have much, but they shared it. I remember being in the Dominican Republic and walking with some students who were taking a mission trip there, and in the middle of this, you know, shanty town of just, poorly put together shacks made of wood, tin, and cardboard. Didn't have had dirt floors. They didn't have running water. They had an outhouse that they shared. I remember being in this poverty, and it was someone's birthday, and somehow they had made a cake, put frosting on it. There was a candle, and they had a balloon, and they shared it. Someone from they had gotten together and did this for this person, and they just shared what they had. And it was just small cake, but I watched even as the birthday girl, a young woman, probably, in her early 20s, was so excited. But then she shared that cake with whoever wanted some, just even if it was just a morsel of bite. And I think that's what generosity looks like. It's about, man, look what I have been blessed with it. Let me share this. It's not about, putting a whole bunch of money in the plate. It's not about writing a big check to charity. It's not about, single handedly saving someone from financial ruin. It's about how do we live our lives consistently. When we see needs, do we help with them? One of the things sometimes, we don't always know what the needs are. Sometimes we can ask. That's, I seriously, whatever I say, let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm honest about it and I'm serious because I don't know everything. Generosity is about us seeing what we have and then also looking to say, how can we be a blessing? And sometimes we may not know that until someone comes to us like, I'm struggling with this. And then we realize, you know what? I can help in this way. Yeah. So this man, he didn't do that. He said, you know what? I've got so much I don't have place to store, so I'm gonna tear down my barns, build bigger ones, so that I can store and keep what is mine. That was a foolish thing to do. We are called to live generously. We're called to hold on to loosely onto our possession. We take care of what we have. We value what we have, but it is not the end all be all. It's not the most important thing in the world. People are more important than possessions. It's not just about money. It's also about our time. I've known people that have been very rich with their money or generous with their money, but they're very stingy with their time. We got to be generous with that as well. We have to be generous with our abilities and generous with our love. Just some things to think about today. Hope you guys are doing well. Talk to you later.